This NFL Week 6 pregame show on the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to get up to 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by our friends over at Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast NFL Week 6 pregame show to get you guys ready for the games coming up here on Sunday. One game already started, of course, across the pond in London. We're at halftime right now between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears. Bears out to a 14-3 lead in that game. But, of course, plenty of action all day here on Sunday for the National Football League. We'll go through our player props for every single game here, if we do have it for every single game. Put together our touchdown parlay for the Sunday games as well. But joining me here to help me break everything down for our player props on this pregame show, you guys know him as the voice of the MLB Gambling Podcast, of course, also on the NBA Gambling Podcast as well. Got my guy here with me. It's Lonte Smith. Lonte, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Thank God for player props because the board is pretty tight right now as far as size and totals. So, yeah, man, thankfully we got some player props to sift through and get some action because I won't have a bunch of action on the size and totals. I feel like the lines are pretty tight.
Yeah, man, it was a difficult week here, at least to find, I don't know, value as far as betting sides and totals here. But yeah, I think that player props definitely have been pretty good to us, at least to the first 5 weeks here. So hopefully we can continue that rolling here in the week 6 games. Like I mentioned, we do have the game about to start in the third quarter here between the Jags and the Bears. Bears out to a 14-3 lead. We'll see if the Trevor Lawrence-led Jacksonville Jaguars are able to make a comeback and make this game competitive here to start NFL Week 6, at least on Sunday. But you guys know how we do it here. We'll go through every single game for the Sunday card, give you our player props, what we're looking at for the games. But before we do dive into it, let me just remind everybody about the devastation that Hurricane Helene caused to the people of Western North Carolina. SGPN is teaming up with the local charity mountainprojects.org to help give back. The biggest donation will get a guest spot on the CFB Pick Show and a ton of great gear from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network merch store. So go to mountainprojects.com. I'm sorry, mountainprojects.org. Hit the flood support button. Help out in any way that you can for the people of Western North Carolina. And last but not least, wanted to shout out to our listeners. If you are watching live, wanted to thank all the listeners of the Propcast. I know this podcast started a couple years ago, but wouldn't be where we are without you guys. But if you could do us a favor, head over to Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. Only you can help prevent corporate gambling from taking over. All right, Delonte, let's get into it here, man. Let's start here with the Cleveland Browns. They are in Philly coming off of the bye week to take on the Eagles. Eagles are going to be healthy for this game. They do get A.J. Brown back and also Devontae Smith back as well for this game. But currently the Eagles are a 8.5-point favorite in this game with a total of 42. Any player props you like in this game?
Man, I know we're starting off. I don't like anything in this game. You can't be predictable. I mean, you can't predict what's going to happen on the Brown side. So I don't know what the deal is there. Still sticking with Watson. I know Njoku did come back last week, was okay. But too much up and down. I think the only consistent thing in the Browns offense has been Jerome Ford, catching passes out of the backfield, and then having some success on the ground, when he can. But Nick Chubb's coming back week 7, so it'll be interesting to see how the offense change. On the other side, Philadelphia is getting their weapons back, but again, I mean, it's kind of like I really don't know what to do with either team, so I'm just going to pass.
Yeah, I didn't have much for this game. I know, obviously, like we mentioned, the two receivers are back here for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see how they look coming off of their respective injuries here. I don't trust the Eagles as an 8.5-point favorite in this game, even if it is against the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
And we've seen this season where favorites of 6 or more have been not very profitable, not only against the spread, but also winning their games outright here. So I didn't have much for this game here. Let's move it here to my Texans. They are in Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Texans currently sitting as a 6.5-point favorite in this game with a total of 38. Any player props you like in this game here, Lante?
Yeah, so is Mixon, is he going to get the full workload? I saw that he was practicing and that he was going to be ready to go. Is he on like a snap count or anything? I didn't read that he was going to be on one. I don't know if you just heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't seen him much of him having any type of limitations or anything like that as far as it comes to snap counts. But I would think they may be a little bit careful with him just because, working him in slow because he is coming off that ankle injury. And Daria Gumbawale has fit in very nicely, at least in the passing game. And you still have, I saw Damian Pierce is also going to be active in this game here as well. So at least the backfield is going to be very healthy, or at least back for this Texans team.
Yes, and I was going to take his receiving yards, but I'm not sure, with those guys being back, how much he's going to see on passing downs because Ogunbowale has been good in the passing game. So I'm going to take Drake May over 27.5 rushing yards. It's minus 120. No Stevenson, bad offensive line, good, really good. Houston front seven. So I think he'll be able to drop back and use his legs a little bit to kind of get first downs and move the chains on those short down situations. If you look at what some of the quarterbacks have done against Houston, Josh Allen had 54, Caleb Williams had 43, Richardson had 58. So they're all similar dual threat quarterbacks. And I think May will be able to have success. 27.5 is, I think, a little bit short. I would take it up to, like 30, 35-ish to be fair. And I was going to look at his attempts because quarterbacks have had 30-plus attempts versus Houston every game but one. I think last game was the only one. I think he had 29 last week. So I was leaning that way, but the stronger part of me is going to be the Drake May rushing prop.
Yeah, I'm with Drake May here as well. Everything that you mentioned for the handicap there on Drake May on his rushing yards. I know obviously we know Texas will be without Nico Collins in this game here as well. I think the pivot is going to be Tank Dell because again they have that chemistry dating back to CJ Stroud's rookie season. But I'm gonna go with Dalton Schultz over. I got at 31.5. I think it's up to 33.5 now. But tight ends against the Patriots this season have had pretty good success. We go back to the Jets game against the Patriots. Tyler Conklin, 93 receiving yards. George Kittle had 45 last week. We saw Jonnu Smith have his breakout game, I guess we can say, at least of this season. 5 receptions, 9 targets, 62 yards. And I think there's 2 games, or not I think, but I know 2 games last season without Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz had 58 receiving yards and 71 yards respectively in those 2 games. So do like Dalton Schultz to be part of the offense here for the Houston Texans without their top receiver. Couldn't talk you off of Tank Dell if you wanted to go there. I definitely understand that because, again, those 2 guys just really have the chemistry dating back to last season. Let's get over to the Commanders and the Ravens. Ravens sitting as a 6.5-point favorite in this game with one of the higher totals on the board this week. I believe it's the second highest total at 51.5. The Commanders will be without the services of Brian Robinson Jr. in this game. But again, we've talked a lot about how the Ravens rush defense has been the best in the league thus far this season. So may be on the shoulders of Mr. Jaden Daniels in this game here, Lante. But anything for Commanders and Ravens you like?
Yeah, 2 things. I like Zach Ertz over, was it 30.5 receiving yards, minus 115. He's over in 2 of 5, but when he gets the targets, I mean, he produces. And if you look at what tight ends have been able to do versus the Baltimore defense, you want to attack the middle of the field. That's where you attack Baltimore. That's where they're vulnerable. Gray and Kelsey each had 30-plus receiving yards. Bowers, 95. Ferguson, 95. Kincaid, 47. Gesicki, 31. So each tight end has had success that they've played against. And I think the middle of the field will be wide open. I'm expecting, being that Robinson's out, they're going to use the short pass game as an extension of the run game. And I think Ertz in the middle of the field will have a decent amount of success. So I like Ertz over 30.5 receiving yards. That's at minus 115-ish. And on the other side, I like Zay Flowers over 58.5 receiving yards. I think it's still there. Should be around like minus 112-ish. He's been a bit up and down this year. 91, 20, 10, 111. So up and down is pretty much defined his season. I think a lot of that has to do with them being able to run the ball a lot more efficiently with Lamar and Derrick Henry. They're not getting those loaded boxes. He's had 7 receptions in each of the 2 big games, so the 91 and the 111 receiving yard games. He has 7 receptions each in that game, 4 combined in the other 2. And if you look at this Washington Commander defense, I mean, Chase had 119, Neighbors 127, Godwin 83, Cooper 60, and probably could have had a little bit more if some of those phantom calls went his way. So I think Flowers can have some success here. I mean, he can get this in 2 or 3 balls, to be honest. So Zay Flowers over 58.5 receiving yards, Zach Ertz over 30.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, couldn't talk about Zay Flowers. Do have him on one of my fantasy teams, so hopefully he has a big game here for the Baltimore Ravens passing attack here. But yeah, going back to last season for Zay Flowers, I mean, we saw how much of a difference that he did make in that passing game, especially where some of these other wide receivers haven't really worked out thus far. The Rashad Batemans of the world. I know Mark Andrews last season was dealing with a lot of injuries, but I mean, just going back to last week, for Zay Flowers, 12 targets, 7 receptions, 111 receiving yards in this game. So this one definitely looks like it's set up to have some fireworks for sure. I didn't have much for this game, but I do agree about what you mentioned about the 2 player props there. Maybe if you want to look at Eckler receiving yards, I don't think they're going to have a much of a rushing attack just because we mentioned the Ravens, have the best in the league as far as a rush defense. Or if you want to go Jaden Daniels rushing yards, couldn't talk you off of that one either.
I agree with that too.
For the Commanders. All right, let's move it along here. Let's get to the Arizona Cardinals. They are in Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Cardinals coming off of a huge upset victory against the San Francisco 49ers last week. They'll be traveling across the country to Lambeau Field. Right now, this stands as the Packers are -5.5 on the spread and the total of 47 in this game here. Lonte, you got props for the Cards and Packers?
Yeah, I got 2. I like James Conner over 70 rushing yards. That's at like -115-ish, -120-ish. I would play it up to -125. Or if you can get it's floating around. Like I see some 68.5, I've seen some 69.5. So just try to find the best number, but we'll just grade it at 70. I think 70s are more widely available. He's over in 3 of 6, but he had 9 carries in one of those games. If you look at the Green Bay defense, they've been atrocious versus running back ones. They've allowed over 100 yards in 3 of their last 4 games. So I think Arizona can control the clock. They probably want to try to not go, hurry up and fast pace against this Green Bay defense. So I think they'll be able to run the ball, short pass game. I wouldn't hate if you want to combine rushing and receiving for Connor. I think he has a big impact on the game. So I'm going to go with his rushing because I think he could just be a little bit more effective on the ground than as a pass catcher. So I'll go over 70 rushing yards for James Conner. And on the other side, I like Jordan Love over 257.5 passing yards. He's getting all his weapons back minus Watson. He's over in 2 of 3 games. He had 224 last week with minimal weapons. He's really playing well. I mean, 8 touchdowns in his 3 games. If you want to, take his touchdown props over 2.5, I think that's pretty good. Arizona, I mean, decent secondary. A lot of teams have been running the ball against him. So I mean, you can pivot to Josh Jacobs, but I just think that with all of the weapons back, Jordan Love will be able to get things going with his offense. I think the total is a little bit short. I think this should probably be around 50 with both of these offenses. We all know that Arizona's never dead with Kyler Murray. He's going to always fight back. But I think Green Bay's offense is one of the more underrated in the NFL when Jordan Love has his weapons at his disposal. So I like over 257.5 passing yards for him, and I like James Conner over 70 rushing yards. That is.
Yeah, so looking at there may be a little bit of rain in the forecast there in Lambeau Field around 68%. It says steady rain and mild temperatures expected throughout the afternoon. The wet conditions coupled with moderate wind blowing diagonally across the field may result in sloppy play and more turnover. So, I think the running back props may be the way to go here. I do like Josh Jacobs in this game, whether it's on the receiving yards or even on the ground. I think more so on the ground here because I feel like there'll be an emphasis on the ground, especially if it is going to be sloppy conditions here. That number right now for Josh Jacobs is at 67.5 in this game. Really couldn't even talk you off of Kyler Murray over on his rushing yards, 32.5. We saw him what was that, a first or second play last week against the Niners? He had a 50-yard touchdown
Right.
run
Right.
for the Cardinals there. So, we know that when Kyler Murray is getting out of the pocket, scrambling around, that's where he's very dangerous, and he does a great job of improvising and either utilizing his getting down the field or finding his receivers down the field there. So, yeah, I do think that we'll see some running back or rushing yards props, I should say that should get over their numbers here today. All right, let's move it along here to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are in the Big Easy to take on the New Orleans Saints. Saints catching 3.5 points in this game with a total of 42.5. Obviously, we know no Derek Carr in this game. Spencer Rattler getting the start here for the New Orleans Saints here. But launch any props for the Saints and Bucks in this game?
Yeah, I wish we could take the over personal fouls because Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore,
Yep.
they're going to be going at it. I think a sneaky touchdown prop would be with Mike Evans. I know we'll get into that later. He's sitting on 99, so I think he'll be able to get that 100 touchdown today. I mean, especially it probably feel better against Marshawn Lattimore. He's had success against Lattimore, so I'm going to look at him to score a touchdown and his over. I think he's at 50. Is he at 58.5 still?
Let's see here.
I'm kind of going. I didn't have this on my official card, but now that I just thought about it.
So I'll mention this while I look this up here. 11 straight games head to head for Mike Evans against the Saints. He's been held under 4.5 receptions in 11 straight games against them. But the number right now for him is sitting at 55.5.
Yeah, I'll take over that. Yeah, I think he can get over that. For all of those reasons. And I mean, I just don't think that New Orleans will be able to contain him, Godwin. That Baker has been spreading the ball around a lot. You're going to get a lot of Bucky Irvin. I think Rashad White's out, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that passing attack will be ready to go. On the other side, I know everybody saw the presser with Spencer Rattler about he's going to get Chris Olave the ball. So we got to go over 49.5 receiving yards. I mean, he's had 80 plus in 3 of his last 4. 2 for 10 last week on 4 targets, so he wasn't given a lot of opportunities to succeed there. I think he's going to have double-digit targets. If you look at what Tampa did last week, they allowed 2 100-yard receivers. I think Drake London and Darnell Mooney both had 100 plus. And if you date back to the Detroit game, St. Brown had 100 plus and Williams had 75 plus. So I think Chris Olave as wide receiver 1 should be able to get going. I'm going to trust Spencer Rattler at his word, saying he's going to get Chris Olave the ball by any means. So let's go over, and I'll pretty much ladder that up all the way up to 100.
Yeah, I think that, again, if there is a week where Chris Olave needs to step up, I think it'll be the Kamara and the Chris Olave show here. I'm really curious to see how Spencer Rattler comes out and plays in this game for the Saints. And again, without Taysom Hill, I think that Taysom Hill is dealing with some type of ribs injury, if I'm not mistaken. For this team, because I thought that when they announced the quarterback or who was going to start here for the Saints, I thought Taysom Hill would, I don't want to say get the start, but possibly be more involved in the offense there. But yeah, couldn't talk about Chris Olave. Bucky Irving, I think, is going to be the popular play for a lot of people in this game, especially in the backfield, right? Because I feel like he's done a lot better than Rashad White this season as far as rushing props go. And rushing yards on the ground here, right? And the number right now for him is sitting at, let's see here, 62.5. I think that could be a look here as well. Spencer Rattler over 15.5 rushing yards. Couldn't talk you off of that one either. I think that number is low here. I know he's not traditionally risen really, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lante wasn't really a scrambler in his college days, wherever he was, whether it was South Carolina or Oklahoma, whatever the case might be. But
yeah, early on he was, but not at South Carolina. He was scrambling because the whole line was bad at South Carolina. But he likes to pass it first.
Yeah, so I think that maybe there's an opportunity here. 15.5 doesn't seem like a big number for Spencer Rattler on his rushing yards. All right, let's get over to the next game on the board. We've got the AFC South matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. Colts currently catching 3 points in this game with a total of 42.5. Anthony Richardson should get the start here. He was practicing all week for this Colts team, and I am not exactly sure who even is starting right now for the Tennessee Titans, whether it is Joe Flacco or, Mason Rudolph or Will Levis here, Lante. But what do you got for play props in this game?
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty in this game. I got one, but I'm gonna stay away. Did you see the reports about Michael Pittman missing like or going on IR, and now he's
Yeah,
back practice. Like that's just so weird. I don't know
he's wild.
who the quarterback is going to be. Yeah, just is a weird game. But Tony Pollard over 64.5 rushing yards. Indianapolis has allowed 100 plus to running backs in 3 of the last 4. So I think that Tony Pollard has taken over the backfield role. He had 60 plus in three of his 4 games. He landed 62 in one of those. He's had 16 plus carries in 3 of those 4 games. So he's getting a boatload of the carries. So I think Tony Pollard can have a day here.
Yeah, Kentucky off. I agree with that one as well. Tony Pollard. I mean, we talked a lot about the early part of the season where running backs were having a lot of success against the Indianapolis Colts, and we saw what Joe Mixon did. We saw what Josh Jacobs did. I think last week was a prime example as well. So I think it's an opportunity, right? I mean, Tony Pollard, he's had a pretty good season thus far. I'm just trying to pull up the numbers from last week for this Titans team or the week prior, because I feel like another running
back.
Yeah,
they were off last week.
Yeah, it was week 4. Sorry, not against the Titans. I mean meant the Colts here. Give me a second. Let's see. Yeah, Tank Bigsby last week was the one, right? This Jaguars running back room against the Colts. 13 carries, 101 yards, 7.77 yards per carry. They also have 2 touchdowns in this game here. So there's opportunity. Either Tajay Spears finds the end zone, or Tony Pollard. We'll talk about our touchdown parlay later in the pregame show here. But yeah, I agree with you about Tony Pollard in this game. I do like him on his rushing yards. And again, if it is Will Levis, how do you protect the quarterback, right? Especially when these young guys. You want to have a solid running game. I think this is a game, an opportunity here for Tony Pollard to really step up in the spot here. Do we look at Michael Pittman Jr. unders?
I mean, honestly, I don't know what to do. If it's Richardson, I would look at everybody under.
I think the only problem I would back Richardson for is longest completion to go over, because
and Pierce would probably be the one that catches it.
Yeah, either Pierce or
AD Mitchell.
Yeah, AD Mitchell would be the other guy. But as far as a cold side, I don't want to mess with anything. I mean, Michael Pittman Jr. number right now, Lonte's sitting at 41.5, so it's a little bit telling on what they are thinking. All right, you got anything else for this game?
No, I don't.
All right, let's get over to the West Coast games. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are going to be taking on the Raiders in Vegas. Aiden O'Connell, of course, going to start here for the Las Vegas Raiders. Currently, looking at the lines for this game, the Steelers are laying 3 points on the road here with a total of 36.5. And I think this is going to be a huge, huge home game for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this matchup here. But what do you like for player props in this game, if anything, Lonte?
Yeah, I don't like anything. I would probably, if Jaylen Warren's not back, I would just look at Najee stuff. Every back has had 58 plus yards.
I think he's back this week.
Yeah, and that should maybe get, although it might limit his carries, I think he'll be fresher and more explosive. So I would look there. Maybe Trey Tucker. I would look at him as his receiving yards. Jacoby Myers out. Devontae Adams out. But it's hard to, I mean, he's going to be the focal point of the offense. So, yeah, it was a lot of, like, I don't know with this game. The only thing that I could land on was probably Najee rushing yards over, but I'm not even fully confident in that. So, that's just a lean there. I probably would pass on the risk.
Yeah, Najee's been a thorn in my side this season, and anytime I've tried to back him, he's had a poor performance, and then the weeks I don't look at him, he's looked like the guy we saw coming out of Bama for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. So, I didn't have much for this game. Brock Bowers has been really, really good to me this season, if you want to look at him. I think we saw a report late last night, if I'm not mistaken, that it seems like Devontae Adams is more than likely now to stay in Vegas with the Raiders. But he's not going to be active for this game. But if you want to look at Brock Bowers, I think that might be a look. You mentioned Trey Tucker there as well. I think that's a good option as well. But I really didn't officially play anything in this game here between the Steelers and the Raiders. Not sure how many people are actually going to be watching this game as well. All right, let's get over to the Chargers and the Broncos AFC West matchup here. Chargers currently laying 3 points on the road with a total of 35.5. Chargers coming off of their bye week here, Lante. But what do you got? Any player props for this game?
Yeah, I got two. I like Justin Herbert under 183.5 passing yards. Shop around. You can find this at like minus 185, 186. It's just like all over the place. 183.5 is pretty much the consensus, is what I took. He's not surpassed 185 in any of these games. He's under in every single game. His passing yards prop 20 or less attempts in 2 of his last 3. Harbaugh has pretty much turned him into JJ McCarthy. But I'm not sure if I feel good about that. But on the opposite side, Denver's only allowed one quarterback to go over their passing yards, and that was Aaron Rodgers 2 weeks ago in a rainstorm. Ironically, he goes over in a rainstorm. So yeah, I like Justin Herbert under 183.5 passing yards. On the other side, I also like Javonte Williams over 72.5 rushing plus receiving yards. If you look at the backs that they faced, the Chargers, that is, I mean, Hunt had 85, Najee had 86, Hubbard had 76, Madison as an RB2 had 62. I know that's under the number, but we're just going to pretty much feel like Javonte is going to get most of the snaps. He's had 60 plus rushing yards, in the last 2 games. And also he's had 4 plus receptions in 3 of his last 4, averaging 42 yards receiving in those 3 games. So I think it sets up for him to have, a 50-50 type of day and get over this number. So I like Javonte Williams over 72.5 rushing and receiving yards. Justin Herbert under 183.5 passing yards.
Yeah, I couldn't talk you off of Justin Herbert here. I think again, and also he's dealing with that foot injury, right? Coming to the season for plantar fasciitis. So I think that obviously number one limits his mobility a little bit, but I think the days where we saw Justin Herbert throwing for 3,500, 4,000 plus passing yards to start his career, I think those days are possibly gone. And so a little bit of lack of weapons for the Chargers there as well. One more note, of course, if you want to take maybe not this week, Lante, but going forward, J.K. Dobbins is probably going to get most of the backfield carries now. They put Gus Edwards on the IR, so he's going to be missing at least minimum the next 4 games here. So we'll keep that in mind as we move forward through the next couple of weeks here if he does have an advantageous matchup, but maybe not this week against the Denver Broncos. All right, let's get over to the Falcons and the Panthers here. Falcons laying 6 points on the road here against the Panthers with a total of 46 here. Lante, we talked about the Falcons coming off of that thrilling victory in overtime on Thursday Night Football last week. Kirk Cousins, 500 plus passing yards, had a really good game. We talked about the wide receivers. Panthers defense, I mean, look, the conversation, a lot of it was about the quarterback change there with Bryce Young getting off to another bad start. Andy Dalton coming in, they get the initial victory against the Raiders. But again, they're going to be down Adam Thielen, obviously, who left that game against the Raiders with that hamstring injury. I think they're missing one. I think Deontay Johnson dealing with a groin injury. I'll look it up exactly here. You got any player props for this game?
Yeah, so I like 2. I think Carolina's live in this game to win it, to be honest. I like Kirk Cousins under 252.5 passing yards. He's under in 4 of his last 5. I mean, he had that big 500-yard game. I don't think that's indicative of what they want to do. Teams have been able to run the ball against Carolina's front. If you just look at some of the backs, Chase Brown, 80, Moss, 51. Those are in the same game. Dobbins, 131. Edwards, 59. Kamara had 83. So I don't think the Carolina secondary, I don't know if it's kind of on the brink of is it good, or are they just seeing low numbers because teams can just run the ball, they don't have to throw. Either way, I think that bodes well for under 252.5 passing yards. Only one quarterback has went over versus Carolina, and that's Caleb Williams over their passing props, and that was last week. And I also like Chuba Hubbard over 65.5 rushing yards. That's minus 120. Atlanta's allowed 70 plus rushing yards to every running back one this year. Chuba Herbert's been really good, 90 plus in 3 straight games. He also had 4 plus receptions in 4 straight. So if you want to put in the receiving yards, I don't hate that as well. But yeah, Chuba Hubbard over 65.5 rushing yards, minus 120. Kirk Cousins under 252.5 passing yards.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson was dealing with an ankle injury. He's officially listed as questionable for this game. He was a limited participant all week in practice. Tommy Treble is going to be out. He's dealing with a concussion. Xavier Legette, shoulder injury, but he was full participant all week. And also tight end Ian Thomas, calf injury, is a limited participant on Friday as well. The one prop I did like, I mean, you mentioned the under on Kirk Cousins passing yards. but I do like over 1.5 touchdowns for him in this game. Every single quarterback that has faced his Carolina Panthers defense has thrown for at least 2 passing touchdowns. So maybe he doesn't get over his his passing yards here, but I do think he can find obviously 2 guys in that offense to get 2 passing touchdowns. This could maybe one of the higher scoring division games this week. But I agree with you. I think there's too many points here for the Atlanta Falcons. Honestly, laying this number. I know they have the extended rest and things like that, and the Panthers defense hasn't looked very good here. But just makes me nervous. Number one, we know the rule of Kirk Cousins outside of that 1 p.m. Eastern time window, and then playing outdoors as well. So, but hopefully at least he can get 2 passing touchdowns for me in this game. I wanted to get on Bijan Robinson here,
yeah,
Lante,
me too. I did, but I didn't do. I wanted to, but I didn't do it. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, all the signs point to it. I mean, the
the
backs have been really good, but I mean, I just
Yeah, he's also dealing with that hamstring injury, which again, he was a full participant in practice on Friday. But again, when you talk about those type of injuries, those could really, act up again during the game, and again, he could come in and probably miss. He could play in the game, but then if that hamstring, messes up again, then he'd probably be out for the rest of the game. So, like you mentioned, the numbers and everything line up for Bijan. So maybe if you want to pivot to Tyler Algier in this game. I think that could probably be looking this game here as well. All right, let's get over to maybe the game of the week. The Detroit Lions, they are in Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Lions currently laying 3.5 points, and the Lions laying 3.5 points on the road here against the Cowboys. Highest total on the board, 52.5. It looks like it's on the march to go even higher on that total at least. But what are you looking at for player props in this game?
Man, great game. Detroit's got a little bit of revenge for that tackle eligible that Dallas called back last year. You remember that? It was a crazy game.
Yeah.
Coming off the bye, I really didn't have much. I'm gonna be honest. I would look at some ladder props for Montgomery and Gibbs. I mean, Dallas can't stop anybody. I think Parsons and Lawrence are both still out, so they're gonna have running lanes with that offensive line. So I guess I would pivot. I would just go over Gibbs rushing and over Montgomery rushing, whatever those numbers are. Do you have those?
Yeah, I can get it for you here. So I think 55.5 was a number for Gibbs.
Yeah, give me over that.
But that number may have moved here. Let's double check that. Gibbs is at, let's see. Gibbs is up to 59.5. Yeah, Montgomery's at 57.5.
Yeah, I think both can have 60 plus. If you want to parlay those to have 60 plus, I think that's a good bit. I think both backs have success, especially against that soft front. We saw running backs have extreme success against Dallas. So, yeah, I like both of those running backs to go over.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the CeeDee Lamb game. I've talked a lot about how slot wide receivers are really struggling against the slot wide receivers are really struggling against the Detroit Lions are struggling to defend the slot wide receivers, what I'm trying to say. And CeeDee Lamb primarily does play in the slot position for the Dallas Cowboys. Last season, this team, like you mentioned, they both played each other. In that game, CeeDee Lamb had 220 plus receiving yards and a touchdown. And last week, we saw some of that frustration, right, from CeeDee Lamb and not being able to get the football. And I know that was more so because of the turnovers that Dak had, especially in the red zone. But I think this could be a good opportunity here for CeeDee Lamb to have that breakout game, again, being at home. The number's up to 89.5. And this number opened up, honestly, at 82.5 because that's the number I grabbed it at. But I think this could be easily another 100-plus receiving yards game for CeeDee Lamb. So I do like him in this game. I did play that 82.5, 86.5. I couldn't talk you off of any other ones there as well. Also like Jameson Williams, longest reception. Lante over 21.5. We know he's pretty much the home run hitter for this Detroit Lions team. I want to say in the 4 games he's played this season, 4 games, 3 of the 4 he's gone over this number rather easily. So I think that if he's able to find some open space here, or even if they're able to find him down the field here, I do think that this is going to be an opportunity for Jameson Williams to have another long reception of over 21.5 in this game. So I do like that for the Detroit Lions. All right, let's get over to Sunday Night Football. The Cincinnati Bengals, they are taking on your team, the New York Giants. Currently, as it stands, the Bengals are a 3.5-point road favorite here with a total of 46 in this game here, Lante. What are you looking at for Bengals and Giants, if
Man,
anything?
I didn't have nothing in this game. I would look at Higgins to go over. The pass catchers have been really good against the Giants. Tight ends have been really good. So if you want to look at Gesicki as well, that's one thing people the Giants can't defend: tight ends, wide receiver twos, and running backs out of the backfield. I'm not sure. I think Zach Moss got injured, so I think it might be Chase Brown
Yep.
time. So if you want to just go rushing receiving for him, yeah, I didn't have anything strong here. If I had to play anything, it would be T Higgins over. I think it's a slot corner. Secondary corners don't do good against T Higgins, so I would look at the T Higgins over. What is that number?
For his receiving yards,
Yeah.
T Higgins is sitting at, let's see here. T Higgins, 56 and a half.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that over. Other than that, though, man, I don't know. Giants banged up. Singletary out again. Neighbors out again. Although Tracy was pretty good.
I was going to mention
but
him, yeah.
Yeah, Tracy was pretty good, and Daniel Jones has been pretty good as of late. But I think Lou Anarumo is going to have something dialed up for him. And Daniel Jones like 1-13 primetime, worse than since the NFL merger in like 1970 or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't trust Lou Anarumo to dial up anything with the way this defense.
I mean, it's Daniel Jones we're talking about
as of late. Yeah. You mentioned Tracy Jr. I think Devin Singletary was supposed to be back for this game. I thought I saw him practicing, but he may have been in a limited basis. But we saw last week what he was able to do against the Seattle Seahawks, Tracy Jr. And again, we know the Bengals. We've beat on this drum a lot. Without DJ Reader there, this rush defense has been pretty poor to start the season here. The defense overall has been really bad. So I would look at him to go over on his rushing yards. Darius Slayton was a guy that stepped up, I believe, last week for this team. Again, Malik Neighbors is going to be out with that concussion, which is a bit curious because now it's been about, I want to say, right around 2 weeks now, maybe a little bit over that since he suffered that concussion. Still is not back for this Giants team. So, yeah. So those are 2 ones I would look at. Tracy Jr. rushing yards over, and then Darius Slayton over 51.5 rushing yards. Receiving yards, I should say, in this game. Anything else for Sunday Night Football?
Nope, that's it.
All right. So that will be the card there for Sunday. Let's get into our touchdown parlays for this week here. We've been getting pretty close, long time. I know we had that one 2 weeks ago. We had 3 out of 4. But I believe we'll hit one sooner rather than later here. But who do you like to find the end zone?
That's a good question. Let's go.
I think you mentioned somebody earlier that you.
Let's go with Javonte Williams. He hasn't touched the end zone yet. I think he has a decent game against the Chargers. Yeah, give me Javonte Williams to find the end zone.
All right, so we'll go Javonte. Let me find him. Yeah, he's at 2-1. That's a good start there. I do like Tony Pollard here today.
Me too. Yeah, I like Tony Pollard.
Anytime touchdown. He's around even money to find the end zone there. Let's see. You said you like Mike Evans, right?
Do like Mike Evans too.
All right.
I bet Mike Evans. Yep.
Yeah, plus 120. And then let's go one more. We need to get our tight end and prop in here.
Yeah, who do we like tight end wise?
I like Dalton Schultz to have a big receiving yard.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to get to the touchdown if you want to.
No, I kind of like him as well. I could see him or Hunter Henry for New England, kind of having safety valve, red zone. Drake May can kind of find him.
Schultz is at plus 275. Hunter Henry's at plus 390.
Yeah, now let's
Drake
go with
May's
Schultz.
At plus 340 for Drake May. All right, we'll go with Schultz.
Yeah, let's go with
plus
Schultz.
275. All right, so we'll go with that for our touchdown parlay this week. All right, so we'll go Mike Evans to find the end zone. He's around plus 120. We'll also go with Tony Pollard to find the end zone for the Tennessee Titans against the Indianapolis Colts in that game. Let's also go with Javonte Williams to get his first touchdown of the season for the Denver Broncos. And then last but not least, we're going to go with Dalton Schultz of the Houston Texans to find the end zone in that game without Nico Collins. That gets you to right around plus 48.50. So close to 49-1 for our touchdown
Mm-hmm.
parlay of this week. So just to recap, Mike Evans against the Saints, Tony Pollard against the Colts, Javonte Williams against the Chargers, and then Dalton Schultz of the Texans up against the New England Patriots. Jake mentioning the merch god that Joe Flacco is going to get the start here for the Indianapolis Colts. So yeah, do with what you want to do with that
I would take over
information.
on those. Over on Pierce, over on Pittman.
All right, I think Pierce would be I mean, back injuries are godly. It's
He's had
it's
them
tough.
since USC, so I mean, it's not something that just popped up.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we couldn't talk you off of those there for that Colts and the Titans game. Low key, I kind of like the over in the game now if Joe
Yeah, I love the
Flacco is
over. If
starting
it's
there.
Flacco, I love it. Love the over.
Yeah. All right, Lance, anything else we want to mention? Anything else? Anything last minute you're looking at for
Nah,
player
not
props?
really. Not really, man. I think we just flew through it all. So yeah, I'm looking forward to. Like I said, it's going to be a heavy player prop. It's already heavy player prop for me every week, but yeah, even heavier this week, being that the size and totals are just so tight, which is it's unfortunate because we're not even halfway through, and the lines are getting this tight. So yeah, man, player props it is, but yeah, looking forward to a good day, man. Hopefully everybody else has a good day as well. Hopefully we got some winners for them.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully we did find some winners here for the player props for week 6. You saw me fist pumping earlier because Swift does have now 45 receiving yards for the
I need that for my fantasy team.
yeah, for the Chicago Bears, and the Bears right now at the end of the third quarter knocking on the door to possibly. I'm sorry, he has 28 receiving yards, I should say, for the Chicago Bears receiving group. All right, that's going to pretty much wrap it up here. I know these games get less and less, obviously, with the bye weeks kicking in and the London games and the international games kicking off early. So, in about 20 minutes or so, you'll have Sean and Kramer doing their pregame show. They'll take your calls as well, get your guys' plays. So, make sure you guys get over there with Sean and Kramer over at the Gambling Podcast. Whether if you want to watch on YouTube, whether it's on in the Discord, on Twitters, whatever you want to do. Again, make sure you guys tune in with them. They will be going live at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, we'll be back next week for the Week 7 pregame show. Look out for us then. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.